AMI or to serve a different population. And that is out of our control. So we are dealing with the statute that we have. So knowing that, I'd love to kind of start the conversation around what in the Prop 123 statute do you think would benefit you and your community? So either your program or your community, and how would you suggest that DOH incorporate that into either an existing program or a new program? So I think we can just do kind of the raise hand function in order to kind of start the conversation. Looks like Alex has raised his hand.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. Alex Dano, I work at Bryan Cave. I'm an attorney and I advise affordable housing developers. And we have clients who want to do affordable home ownership, either as condos or townhouses or single family residences, and they already have maybe the land to do this. So I'm particularly interested in how DOH is thinking about structuring either loans or grants to housing authorities or nonprofits in order to build, 20 or 50 or 70 unit home ownership projects. So
I will provide a non-answer answer, but in all good spirits. When Mo indicated that this is the absolute beginning, I really want to hear from you as to what would be most helpful to your clients. How do you suggest that we structure a program that would help an affordable housing developer who already owns the land get to kind of final completion of construction? So I'd love to hear ideas from you. We are kind of a blank slate at this point. I mean, clearly we can't do everything, but right now really want to hear what we should be thinking about.
Definitely is necessary to have that funding on the front end, right? Like if we're thinking, okay, we have a client who wants to build 80 for sale affordable homes, they already have the land, and we're going to need, traditional construction financing in order to, make up the bulk of the financing for the project. I think we all know CDOH's contracting process and kind of what goes into that. And for familiarity with the people we work with, I think we would kind of like the process to stay kind of what it is we're familiar with, where there would be, a grant maybe approved in advance of the bigger financial closing and some kind of an award letter from CDOH saying, hey, you've been awarded a per unit amount of, $20,000 or $25,000 per unit, and that we could then use that to leverage other financial resources.
Gotcha. Thank you. Paul Major, I think I saw next.
Thank you, Andrew. A little bit sort of building on that question or comment. What's the chance of using some of the 123 money as pre-development money? Because again, we're experiencing sort of the same thing. We know there's properties out there, there's land out there, it'll be provided, but it's coming from small communities that have no development capability, or frankly, there's no amount of capacity building for that town that's going to allow them to do the kind of work to get a shovel in the ground. So the idea of being able to tap 123 as pre-development money for a developer to come in and do the entitlement work, engineering work, to see if they can actually get a project ready to build. And then maybe the second part is then a fee for service fund or fee for service funding for that developer versus the traditional, grants of loans and grants and everything else, but a fee for service that could be essentially the driver for that developer. Again, we're talking about developments where there is no profit. There is no, we're not going to be able to build houses at 100% AMI or 120 AMI and have any kind of profit. So this is not about for-profit developers getting, a little bit, it's about trying to attract developers and mitigating some of their risk on the front side.
So certainly appreciate the comment and the question. Same as I talked to Alex, I don't don't necessarily want to predict what the chances of doing that are, but I do appreciate the highlighting of the need as we think about these programs. I can give a little perspective as pre-development funding has been a topic, that we've dealt with, in the short time I've been with DOH, and probably long predates me. And there are kind of risks and fiduciary issues there in terms of the state providing pre-development funding to an unproven entity or town that may not ever perform. That's not a bad thing. I don't want to be interpreted as saying we don't want to do that, but that is and has been the issue. I wonder if, so Alex kind of brought this up on the development end, but perhaps on that pre-development end as well, maybe some sort of program term sheet or soft award letter could help a small local startup developer then take that and go to another funding source, think foundation or something like that, that would then be willing to put up that pre-development money, knowing that the thing actually has a chance if it can get pre-developed. I don't know, these are just ideas, but I appreciate you highlighting that, Paul. We're definitely not going to solve and come to conclusions today, so definitely really want to get the input and I'll try to stay off the output portion for now. We've got lots of time to develop these programs, but thank you. I think I've got, let's see, John and then a phone caller. So let's go to John Lovell, St. Brain Habitat next.
Thank you, Andrew. I think one of the challenges that we're seeing as we begin to really ramp up our production, our habitat is kind of a mid-level one. So we're trying to get to 12 to 15 homes a year in our communities that we serve. And we're finding that it's most efficient to kind of work in a specific neighborhood. So we're ending up getting raw land. So I know that the funds can be used for land acquisition, but probably the harder nut is getting the infrastructure in the ground. So I think that there's kind of, in my mind, a three-step process of acquiring the land, of putting the infrastructure in, and then finally building the homes. And the building the homes is kind of the sexy part, but those first two are not necessarily particularly sexy for fundraising in my world. So I think that some real clarity about where DOH can support us in each of those primary steps would be very, very useful for thinking like a developer, because that's something that's new to us. We used to do, infill lots here and stuff like that. And now we're having to buy properties that are big enough to be clear about that. Second part of my comment is we also serve rural communities like Estes Park. And we do have land opportunities up there as well with infrastructure. But I'd like to see or understand in the future, as you're developing this stuff, here's for urban, suburban kinds of areas, and what special things are being done to help rural communities where they may not have the planning capacity that we might have here in Longmont, Colorado, for example.
Thank you. That's a good opportunity for me to plug. You should definitely go to the local government division's breakout room next to be talking with Robin and Andy Hill, as there is some set aside there. So thanks for highlighting, and thanks for your comments. I see a hand raised from an iPhone caller.
Thank you for taking my input. I just wanted to make a comment that would be.
Can I first ask your name and any organization you might be associated with?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Evan Samora, and I'm with the Swatch County Housing Authority.
Thanks, Evan.
I just wanted to make a comment about the need for this program to be small enough to work in rural areas like in my county. Swatch County is some 5,000 square miles with 6,000 people. and the town of Saguache is 600 people, Crestone, you know, probably around 1,000 between there and Abaca. And in areas like this where it's more difficult to get those resources and those dollars, yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that it would be really amazing if this program also worked in very rural areas like mine.
Gotcha. I thank you for the comment, and I will put in a plug for our local Division of Housing Development Specialists, as they are located around the state. I know that we have one there in the San Luis Valley, Andrew Atchley, who you may have dealt with. We have a myriad of funding options that can be tailored to different geographies. So there may be a braiding of funding possibilities that could meet a smaller town's needs as well as a larger Front Range community's needs. So thanks for highlighting that.
Thank you. And I'll put in a plug for Andrew Atchley because he's extremely helpful. He has always been a very helpful resource for information and guidance.
Appreciate that. Looks like we have Jesse Zamora next.
Hey there. Yeah, I just have a comment on this. I just think and to echo what everyone else has said, the more that's allocated towards horizontal construction, that will help out homeownership the most. Where builders see the most problem is connection fees and all these utility costs. It gets very intensive and is very heavily regulated. So the more we can do there, and get these projects shovel ready, that's where we'll see the opportunity to get that investment to come to the state.
Thank you. Looks like John Lovell raised his hand again.
Yeah, and this is one of those where I'm not sure if it belongs in the transitional housing piece or affordable housing, but I'll raise it here and plan on it in the other one. We certainly are pursuing a couple of opportunities with partners in our area to build like a transitional housing part of a property and an affordable housing part of a property. It would be nice to have some guidance. I assume that's a desirable thing in the minds of DOH, and I think it would be good for that to be a subset of how do you deal with two organizations that want to build contiguous to one another on one piece of land, and how to work through that sort of thing, because we have an opportunity here to do that, and it's in the very early stages, but it'd be nice to know how to work it through the system. Or if that would be something you would encourage, even that's the flip side of that one.
I appreciate the question. I'll re-echo my plug for working with your local housing development specialist. I think Pam Gibson, maybe, if you are in Boulder County. But to answer that question a little bit, we have certainly recently looked at applications that are contemplating a large land purchase that will then be subdivided, maybe one into a permanent supportive housing development funneled by tax credits, another into affordable home ownership. Maybe there are economies of scale, opportunities there that can allow for different sources to pay for that. I can only assume that it is cheaper to build miles, 2 and 3 of horizontal infrastructure than mile number 1. So, thinking larger land acquisitions, doing all the horizontal at the same time. And maybe it's even a 3-parcel approach where the 3rd parcel is sold to a market rate developer as shovel ready lots, using that profit to then help sprinkle the subsidy into the 2 kind of more affordable housing focused ideas. So I don't want to say that we actively encourage or discourage anything, as we love all ideas and applications for affordable housing projects, but those are conversations that we and your local housing development person would love to have, John. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Andrew.
Alex, I saw your hand again, and then Catherine, and then Carolyn.
And this is a question, I put it in the chat, but it's been a while since I've read Prop 123, and in order to be eligible to receive home ownership assistance under Prop 123, does the local government need to make the commitment in Prop? So, for example, if you're in Laramie or if you're in Loveland, Colorado, does the Loveland City Council need to make the commitment in Prop 123 in order for people in the city of Loveland to be eligible to receive this money?
You are correct. And thanks for that level setting. That's a good, maybe should lead with that in the next group. But all of this Prop 123 idea, again, we can't go back to the statute and change it. So as much as we might agree or disagree with that, it is what it is. And so, yes, the local governments, whether they're divided up into cities or counties, whatever the local governing jurisdiction is, absolutely needs to make those commitments and essentially be qualified in order for any Prop 123 money to be spent within the borders of that jurisdiction. I think Catherine and then Carolyn.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. So I had a question about acquisition for land trusts. We're trying to accomplish set up a neighborhood stabilization program. And will DOLA have any expectations about the final outcome of an acquisition project, in that it has to result in an immediate sale? And I ask this because one resident from a target neighborhood that we're working with, they're asking, what if people who don't want to move from their homes but want to sell to the land trust just to take advantage of the home equity, and then the home is now in the land trust, and when they die or whatever, or want to